everyone. My name is Ana Gifty of Political Admin. I'm so excited to be here today to be talking a little bit about my experience, representation in economics, and the like. And so the title of my talk today is, was it a mistake for me to choose this field? And I thought that the motivating example here could be just looking up famous economists to see sort of what comes up when people are interested in learning more about economics and more about who economists are. So first and foremost, economics is pretty beige. And what I mean by that is like, it's predominantly white, it's predominantly male, but the world is not. Actually, the world is pretty black and brown, and majority of the world is actually identifies as female, right? And so again, this idea of it was a mistake for me to choose this field. This was an op-ed that I actually co-wrote with Dr. Lisa D. Cook 2 years ago, where we brought data from the American Economic Association's climate survey to sort of talk about the underrepresentation of Black women in economics. And it was a mistake for me to choose this field. It was a direct quote from a Black woman economist at the time who didn't even feel comfortable enough to suggest economics as a field for her child. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what she was getting at, but more importantly, representation as a whole with respect to economics and related fields. So before we get started, my name is Ana Gifty. Many of you might know me as It's Afronomics on Twitter. I have a couple of spicy takes that I used to put out there. I'm a little bit more mellowed out now because of grad school, but I co-founded the organization, the Sadie Collective, which is an organization that seeks to increase the representation of Black women in economics and related fields. I'm currently pursuing my PhD at Harvard Kennedy School, and I'm studying policy and economics with an interest in the future of work, looking at barriers for Black and brown young people trying to enter the workforce. And I'm also the upcoming editor of a book that's coming out next year, first day of Black History Month, The Black Agenda, Bold Solutions for a Broken System, which Dr. Gervais Grooms actually contributed to. So I invited about 35 Black experts across climate, the economy, criminal justice, et cetera, to sort of offer solutions for what we do next in a post-pandemic world. So today, I really just want to talk about my journey very authentically. And we're going to kind of zip through it a little bit because I really want to spend more time during our breakout sessions getting into sort of the nitty gritty. But a lot of people don't know this. I actually started off with majoring in biology, being a pre-med student, and I was exposed to research after I decided that I wanted to pivot out of pre-med and go into sort of asking questions, right? This idea of asking questions and getting paid to ask questions was a very novel concept to me in college. I learned about it when I was a junior in college. And so I got exposed to Stata. I know all y'all know what Stata is through research, and then basically realized that I actually like data science and I'm really interested in numbers. And so that kind of prompted me to change my major to mathematics. And when I changed my major to mathematics, my university president found out and was basically like, look, you might want to think about this thing called economics. You should reach out to a student just to get a sense of what that looks like. And so I went ahead and did that. And that prompted me to take principles of macroeconomics, which I will talk a little bit more about later and how it influenced my decision to become sort of an economist, excuse me. And then I had an aha moment in that class, which I'll also talk about as well, that really prompted me to think about economics through a practical lens. And then I did every single pipeline program you could possibly imagine in economics. Like, I've done everything. So if you have any questions about that during the breakout sessions, I'm also happy to answer that. While I was doing these pipeline programs, I actually co-founded another pipeline program. So the Sadie Collective is a pipeline program. And I'll also be talking about that later on. And now I'm currently doing my PhD, as I shared before. So let's get into it. Principles of macroeconomics is responsible for my aha moment. So I actually took principles with the first book, Greg Mankiw's book, but there is another principle of economics book, Bessie Stevenson and Justin Wolford, that recently came out that I also think kind of gets at this aha moment. So I was in class, right? The story goes, I was in class and we were going through this concept of human capital in relation to GDP. And my teacher basically connected that concept to how we think about educational investment in sub-Saharan Africa. And I remember just sitting there being like, oh my gosh, that is so dope though, right? Like you can kind of connect these sort of different economic concepts to learn more about the world. And so eventually what that led me to do was learn more about what economists do, what kind of work economics is actually consist of. And it influenced me to basically go into my first pipeline program, which was at the University of Maryland, College Park, with Dr. Judith Hellerstein, who's currently the chair of that university's economics department. And so going into sort of the pipeline programming that we have today, there's a number of different pipeline programs that I was a part of. Meyerhoff and Sloan Fellows in particular was native to University of Maryland, Baltimore County, but the American Economic Association summer program is a summer program that is essentially for anybody who is an undergrad or even post-undergrad that's interested in going to graduate school for economics or a related field. And so I did that program under Dr. Lisa D. Cook at Michigan State University. And then I also did the UChicago Summer Research Institute, which is very similar to what I did at University of Maryland the first summer I actually decided to get into economics. And then the final one is PhD Excellence Initiative. So this was sort of available through NYU Stern. Peter Blair Henry has this program where he invites Black and Brown scholars of all types to really learn more about research and also sort of talk about their research ideas as well. So the last thing I really want to get into today is the sheer amount of beigeness that is in economics, right? So we started off with economics is beige, but the world is not. And this is just sort of to give you a sense of what that means. So if we look at the number of degrees nominally, that's essentially earned across economics, finance, math, and accounting, you see that not only are Black women severely underrepresented, but our representation is actually declining over time. And so this sort of led to us co-founding the Sadie Collective, right? The Sadie Collective was not really founded to sort of launch our careers, right? It was really founded out of necessity. We had friends that essentially were going through similar experiences where they were the only ones, and they felt like they were under-resourced and they didn't have folks like Dr. Lisa Cook sort of in their corner. And so we said, how do we make this sort of as accessible as possible? How do we make the fields of economics, finance, policy, et cetera, as accessible as possible? And so we started off with co-founding the Sadie Collective Conference that many people know as the Sadie T.M. Alexander Conference for Economics and Related Fields, SACE. And then that basically progressed into the organization that you all now know today, which supports Black women and other college students and professionals from underrepresented backgrounds across the country and across the world. So finally, I want to end on this note. It was a mistake for me to choose this field. That is the quote that was prompted, which prompted, the article that Dr. Lisa D. Cook and I wrote 2 years ago. And what I can say now as a graduate student who's now beginning her sort of economics graduate journey, what I'll say is that it wasn't a mistake for me to choose this field. And I think for me, my only purpose in this space really is to ensure that for others, it's also not a mistake for them to choose this field as well. Thank you so much for your time. I'm so excited to be here again to talk with you all during the breakout sessions. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me via info@anagifty.com, or you can follow me on Twitter for spicy takes at It's Afronomics. I also have a bunch of resources for students, especially college students who are interested in internships, pre-docs, RA-ships, etc. And that's on anagifty.com/resources. Thank you so much.